Dear friends, welcome to yet another installment of Strategic Power. In this video, we will address the imminent Russian offensive in Ukraine, with Putin mobilizing hundreds of thousands of new soldiers and stockpiling ammunition en masse. While Ukraine struggles with weapons shortages, Russia seems to be preparing for a devastating attack, with possible targets being Kyiv, Kherson, and Odesa. Will Putin be able to realize his plans for territorial expansion, or will Ukraine manage to resist? Subscribe to the channel and follow closely this conflict that could change the course of Europe. Putin is preparing to go back on the offensive with reinforced forces and abundant supplies. Like any other intense and constantly changing conflict, the Russian invasion of Ukraine has been divided into well-defined phases. The first phase began with the invasion itself, where Russia took advantage of the element of surprise and its enormous force of over 150,000 soldiers, attacking from several directions at the same time and advancing vigorously on all fronts, especially to the south, in the Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions. During this initial phase, Russia always had the tactical advantage and knew how to exploit it well, consolidating its control over vast areas of Ukraine. In the second phase, which began with the Ukrainian counter-offensive in September 2022, the Ukrainians surprised everyone by forcefully advancing into occupied areas around Kyiv and Kherson. This resulted in the liberation of over 15,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory in the first half of 2023. Despite the Russian victory in Bakhmut, this phase was mainly characterized by a stalemate on the front line, with little progress by either side. Even the Ukrainian offensive launched in June 2023 failed to significantly alter this situation, as the Ukrainians faced fortified Russian defenses and lacked access to essential weapons for offensive actions, such as fighter jets. Advances were discreet and had little influence on the disposition of the front line. In November 2023, towards the end of the European autumn and with winter approaching, Russia launched a series of offensives at several points along the front. However, these offensives did not result in significant victories, except for the conquest of the ruins of the small town of Avdiivka during the winter. The Russians continued with small and medium-sized offensives at various points along the front, but failed to break through the lines at any of them, leaving an important question in the air. Will Russia attempt a new major offensive against Ukraine, and if so, when and how will it occur? Taking into account recent statements by Putin and high-ranking military officials, such as Sergei Shoigu, the Russian defense minister, a new Russian offensive seems to be near. In recent months, Russia has intensified and accelerated its process of recruiting new soldiers, adopting two main approaches: calling up reservists for one-year periods and recruiting inmates from Russian prisons, offering them pardons for their sentences after serving in Ukraine. As a result, Russia has managed to recruit approximately 500,000 new soldiers in 2023, according to Sergei Shoigu. Many sources believe that Russia will inevitably have to launch a new mobilization in 2024, similar to the one in September 2022, in order to form the two new combined arms armies that are being formed this year. According to several analysts, all of these recruitment measures will give Putin, by June 2024, more soldiers than he had in February 2022, when he initiated the invasion of Ukraine. The number of aircraft and armored vehicles has been considerably reduced due to losses suffered over more than 2 years of war. However, in terms of infantry, Putin will have 15 to 20% more soldiers for the European summer than he had at the start of the conflict. While reinforcing his ranks, Putin is also rapidly replenishing his supplies of weapons and ammunition, thanks to deals with Iran and mainly with North Korea. Russia is gaining access to enormous quantities of ammunition, especially artillery ammunition, which are highly impactful weapons in this conflict. This replenishment of Russian arsenals comes at a time when Ukraine is facing a shortage of weapons and ammunition due to the blocking of new US military aid. This blockade is the result of the Republican-controlled Congress refusing to approve new defense assistance packages for Ukraine. With all these factors combined, many analysts believe the next Russian offensive could occur in the coming weeks, taking advantage of rising temperatures and improving terrain conditions for the transit of trucks and armored vehicles. This offensive, which will have to count on a larger number of soldiers than Putin mobilized at the start of the invasion, will be supported by enormous stockpiles of ammunition. Faced with the critical state of Ukrainian forces, Putin will have great leeway in choosing his targets. Many believe these targets will be primarily two: the city of Kyiv and the Kherson and Odesa regions. For Putin, capturing Kyiv is crucial to relieve pressure exerted on the northern Donbas by Ukraine, in addition to representing a significant strategic blow, as it is the country's second-largest city. As for Kherson and Odesa, the goal is to realize Russia's plan to annex southern Ukraine and establish a connection with Transnistria in Moldova, occupied by Russia since 1992. This action also has strong economic motives, as it would give Russia control of the important ports of Odesa. If the Republicans continue blocking US defensive aid to Ukraine, Putin will have a clear path to advance and conquer the desired Ukrainian regions, realizing his plan of territorial expansion with so many new soldiers and replenished ammunition stockpiles at his disposal.